Baker Mayfield and the Bucs went out on Monday Night Football and got smoked by the Lions 24-9. And I just got to say it, Baker did not look like an MVP in that game at all. All right, Bucs fans, I know you're going to be upset about this one. And I think that there were a lot of components to it. But Baker, not very good on Monday Night Football. Just missing a lot of passes, sailing passes, and we'll break down why. But I hate to say it, I think he was a little bit shook, at least on Monday night. Now, for Baker, I just think there were just a lot of opportunities, guys open. I mean, I'm a little jaded. I had Ibuka on my fantasy team, and he was wide open. And Baker just couldn't hit him. Throwing the ball high, sailing passes, doing stuff he really hasn't done all year. And he's had a great season up to this point. That's why we're even talking MVP or mentioning it, right? Like, he had 5 come from behind victories. I think in this game, we were waiting for them to hit that gear, especially because Evans and Ibuka said they're going to play at the last minute. And we just never saw the cohesion, specifically against the Lions. Backup secondary, no Brian Branch to suspension, and as the Lions normally do, they start falling apart in the secondary as the game goes on. Now, rough news for the Bucs, and obviously this affected the game plan as well, but Mike Evans, he is going to be out for a while with a broken clavicle. Not what you want to see. And he's going to be out, Todd Bowles said, for the majority of the season. So that was definitely a tough loss, specifically in the game. But he wasn't open either, to be honest with you, in this game. Ibuka was the one open, and a couple of shots in the third quarter late when they were still in it, and he just kept smoking touchdown passes in rare fashion. I think that there were a lot of components to this, right? Like, the Bucs game plan was just really bad and dumb, and I need these teams to stop looking at the... It's clear to me what they look at, and you could tell by how they plan it, but they're looking at the wrong stuff. So they saw the Lions, and they're like, all right, bet. They're 19th in pass defense, 18th in points allowed. So we should be able to go out there and kind of just light up the Lions. It's clearly the plan. They threw it 50 times, and they ran it 10. Very imbalanced. Like, we're going to put the game on Baker, obviously. We're going to play all our wide receivers, and we're just going to try to just go out there and light them up. And there are a couple of flaws with this, which obviously we'll get to, but they ignored the most important fact for the Lions, and the thing that it can be super duper disruptive to a pass game. The Lions came into this game tied for 4th in the league at sacks with 2.7 a game. What you do not want to do to a defense that is just let them pin their ears back, and they were able to do it. Now, and the Lions' new defensive coordinator, we've seen them kind of, hold down Lamar. They had the Chiefs a little bit up and down, but the Chiefs then established control. But we saw what they could do to Lamar, and they hit the Bucs with the same defense. They said, we're not going to let Baker run, so they put a spy on him. And you saw that kind of affect things. He couldn't break off that big 3rd and 13 run that he's been kind of living on, really. And they were like, nah, you can't have it. And they were playing tight man coverage, so not a lot of open stuff on the zones underneath, so he had to go deep. And the problem was, early, look at my notes, they called some 3rd and long screens, hated those calls. And again, they just weren't running the ball, and I think that was really dumb. However, people were talking about Baker in MVP conversations. You hear, obviously, I think he's a really, really good, it's a great quarterback. I don't want to say great all the time, but I like Baker. I think he's really, really good. He's a borderline star, and I think he just had a bad game. But my job is to dissect why he had a bad game, and I think he was shook a little bit. I don't think Baker at all is a choke artist. You know what I mean? There's some people when I would say that, you are. They'd be like, all right, that guy just can't do it in big moments. Baker's been in playoff games. He's won playoff games. He won a playoff game with the Browns, and he had them competing with prime Patrick Mahomes Chiefs. Like, that's impressive stuff. He can perform in big moments. But for whatever reason, this game, Monday night, that Detroit crowd was loud, and I know the reason. He threw it 50 times. Aiden Hutchinson didn't get a sack, was all over him the whole game. They were under pressure relentlessly. There was one play that they had a forced fumble. They recovered it, but someone just came from behind and smacked him. He was getting lit up a lot in this game. And at a certain point, no. And specifically because of how the Lions play defense, they don't let you just run. They don't, like we said, they put a spy on you. He couldn't really leave the pocket, so he had to stay there, and he was getting belted all night. And I think a lot of that's on the offensive coordinator, not setting him up, not getting some runs, getting him some easy play action fakes. But once it's, and the game was never, that's what bothered me. The game was never out of range, right? Like, it's 24-9. You could have still run the ball. However, again, when your whole franchise is on Baker, right, you kind of want him to hit some of those passes. Although I'm really never a fan of a guy throwing it 50 times. I think that's too many times, especially, like I said, that Detroit crowd was loud. Their secondary was locked in. They were also hitting people. Baker threw a pick. It wasn't even his fault. He just threw it to Cade Otton, and I forget who it was, but the guy just kind of came from behind him and ripped it out of his hands. It was an incredible play. There was another play where he threw it to Cade Otton, and Cade couldn't quite get the first down. But that's what they were reduced to. Cade Otton being their number one receiver, because and a lot of it was Baker, man. He was missing some open passes out there. He missed a Buka once for a touchdown. He missed Tez for a touchdown. It was as bad as I've kind of seen Baker play in a while. And I just think he was mentally and physically a little shook. And it happens. People get rattled. He's on the road, and he's getting smoked, and he knows he got to throw the ball. And you can just see him. He's just a little quick on all these passes, not as comfortable as he's been. And we know Baker, I'm not calling Baker at all. So he will stand in there, take a hit, throw a big pass all day. But at a certain point, you're human, and you're getting lit up. You know, you're getting lit up, and you're missing passes. So the frustration of that, you thought you were going to have Evans. You don't have him. So now you're back to Tez and Ibuka. And normally he's good in those situations, but it's just a rough game out. And that was just the offense. Defensively, I mean, there were a lot of problems in this game. Even though they fought really to keep him in this game for a while with some big plays. I mean, Jamel Dean was a problem from start to finish. He was getting cooked by Amara, and he was grabbing Amara. Big penalties all day, just up and down the field. That wasn't great. And Jahmyr Gibbs, a run defense that normally is very good. Historically, they're good. They're normally, I think they had a long stretch of not allowing a 100-yard rusher. Normally, they're number one in the league in run defense. At least a couple years ago, they were. When I was super duper paying attention to it. This year, they come in fifth, and Jahmyr Gibbs was just cooking them. I mean, he was doing everything. It started off with the 80-yard touchdown run, and clearly Gibbs was the best player on the field last night, and that's kind of what you saw. I mean, catching the ball, I think he almost had 100 yards receiving. He had 100 rushing. Let me look it up so I get the numbers for you guys. But Gibbs was dominant out there, and they had no answers. It was very McCaffrey-like, but they had no answers. Yeah, he had 136 rushing yards for 2 touchdowns, and then he had 4 less yards than Amara St. Brown. 3 catches, 82 yards for Gibbs. That's insane. 3 less catches, only 4 less yards than Amara St. Brown. That's ridiculous. And then they were just running all over him. Montgomery didn't do much, but still they had 164 rushing yards, touchdowns. However, defensively, they were making big plays, man. They forced a fumble that kept them in the game right before half when it was looking ugly. It was like 14-0. They got a big interception on Goff, and then that interception they ended up turning into a field goal, which was huge, kind of kept their momentum, and I think they went down, and they got a field goal after that. So now, next thing you know, it's an 8-point game, but offensively, you're obviously expecting a little bit more on that end. But yeah, overall, too, the 21st pass defense, I think a lot of that comes to their secondary being out. But Dean coming back today, not looking great. Not looking great at all. He was handsy. Had my Bucks fan in the chat, my guy Miles, being like, Jamel Dean sucks, and I couldn't disagree. He was pretty awful out there. So for the Bucks, I don't think the sky is falling. Like I said, I would be more concerned about this type of performance if I didn't trust Baker in big spots, in big games. But I think, obviously, and we got to mention it too, Evans being out, that hurts. Where's Chris Godwin? Because Godwin was in, and then he got hurt, and I don't even remember him leaving. So let's see what's happening with Chris Godwin. But his injury, get tickets to see Chris Godwin versus the Saints. He's coming back? Apparently, him and obviously Bucky Irving was out as well. So maybe that's one of the reasons they didn't run the ball. But Rashad White is capable, and he's got to get more than 10 carries in that spot. A lot of good ones. Maybe the Bucks bought into their own sauce. You know what I mean? When you hear that you have the MVP, you just kind of maybe just want to let them just get a little lazy, maybe. A little intellectually lazy and let them win the game, perhaps. I don't know. But it's weird because the Bucks, even last game against the 49ers, they went out and they established the run. So for them to not do it on the road against a pass rush like this, just bad play calling. A bad game plan for sure. Next week, you get to bounce back, though. You get the Saints. Saints on the road, I think they're going to smoke them or beat them by enough to win the game. Then you get a bye week, and then it gets really, really interesting again for the Bucks. We should note this was a good stretch, right? Like in those 4 games, they played the Eagles, Seahawks, 49ers, Lions. Those are 4 of the best teams in the NFC, all of them. You come out 2-2. That's not the worst thing in the world. You get another really interesting stretch coming up in which you get the Patriots, Bills, Rams. But after that, it's Cardinals, Saints, Falcons, Panthers, Dolphins, and the Panthers could be interesting. They're 4-3 right now. But for the Bucks, you get a bye, you beat the Saints, start there, get a bye week, and I think that things are back in play, specifically for the division. The really upsetting thing, though, now for the Buccaneers, when you really look at it, they've lost to the Lions and they've lost to the Eagles, and I don't think those are like season-altering losses, except for the fact that in those tiebreaker situations, and now you have the same record as those teams, you don't have the tiebreaker with them. So for the Bucks, that's an unfortunate situation, but you still could have more wins than them, honestly. The Eagles' schedule is brutal, and the Lions still got to play the Packers, I believe. We don't know what the Bears are, but the Lions have some tough games as well. So for the Bucks, bounce back with the Saints win, take your bye, lick your wounds, get Godwin, Bucky back, and maybe we'll again see what this team can be. But definitely not the performance they wanted on Monday night against the Lions. And if hey, look, people got him in the Super Bowl. They got him winning that, John. For them to do that, they need to play a lot better than they did on Monday night. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Please watch some of the other videos on the site. I've created a playlist with each and every football team, and every week we will be going over those games. I'm really loving this, enjoying it, and hoping you guys are as well. Of course, like, subscribe, and if anyone wants to sponsor, we're looking for Lumia Sports Productions is looking for sponsors. Shout us out. We will shout you out during the video. Thank you guys again for watching. Have a great day. Enjoy.